Hi there, welcome back to the Kenny Veach Cave mystery. Today I wanted to present to you an analysis comparison of footage from 2021, a search for Kenny Veach and Cave which actually caught on camera, a campsite and an abandoned tent, which does look somewhat similar to what Kenny Veach had in the past. Today I want to do a side-by-side comparison of an older hike photo of Kenny with certain equipment which looks very similar to that on the Cave hike video by Scott Natal, and see if we can come to some kind of conclusion, because it is kind of interesting but also creepy. The possibility of proof that Kenny Veach's campsite was found out there abandoned, ripped up, and no more traces of Kenny. It's kind of creepy when you think about it. Take in mind, as of more recent time onwards, when Scott Natal returned back to the area, the tent completely vanished. Why? I don't know. But at least today we're just going to be doing side-by-side comparisons. Okay, welcome to anyone that's currently here in the live premiere. Be sure to share your thoughts, opinions and reactions in the live chat box. As for those that may watch this video at a later date, be sure to leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. And if you want, in the pinned comments, there will be some additional links if you wish to check them out. Alongside that, top right corner of this screen, the I symbol, you click that, there'll be some additional links to previous videos in case you've missed out on them. And I'll try and provide the link to the original hike route via the maps, the analysis of that, what Scott Natal did to get from point A to point B. I did document that as well. To kick things off, I can present to you once again, to re-jog your mind, or if you've never seen it before, the footage, the finding, caught on camera, campsite, tent found. I will provide just a small bit of backstory before we get into that video clip so you're more familiar with it, okay? So, when did this all occur? When was it found? In 2021. What was exactly found? A ripped up tent, a few cans of food empty, some stones piled on top of one another, and hidden under some rocks, a concealed bamboo sword. You heard that right, a concealed sword. Very out of place in a way, right? All kinds of theories over time. Random people, the murderer, a serial killer, someone that was stalking Kenny Veach at the time, all kinds of endless possibilities there, okay? In terms of who it was found and recorded by, known as hiker Scott Natal, that's his YouTube channel as well. I'll provide a link down below in the comment section or the description if you wish to check his channel out. So Scott Natal, 2021, did like a reverse hike. I think it might have been passed through Cow Coral Road, or maybe even parking near towards Hidden Forest Trail. I can't remember which one exactly. It would have to be Cow Coral Road. Yeah, Cow Coral Road, going up into the mountains, but then going back on oneself in the direction of if you used to come up. It'll make more sense if you check the video top right corner of the screen as for the map analysis. But it was, in terms of the direction he was going, coming down the mountain, going up, then coming down onto the other side, and then going south, as if you were going towards the mine shaft, right? But he didn't go that far. He only went up to the point of the agave pit, and then if you used to suddenly turn right, which if you used to go north, you'd be turning west, which would be then down Picture Canyon, okay? But it's before that, right? Before you get down to that. And it was like a collection of rocks close together, in which when you walk on into it, which is a bit of a dead end, that's where the tent is, where the cans are. Was it set up there, the actual campsite, or did things blow over? Well, the way the tent was up against the rock, you could imply that it was blown into the rock possibly. But then as for the cans and the other items about, maybe it was a little concealed area to try and block out the wind and the elements by being in an enclosed area. Was it Kenny Veach's campsite is the ultimate question, right? And there are suggestions to prove that it could be a possibility, because besides the campsite, Nearby, there was a tent bag as well. And the pattern, what I noticed with the tent bag to the actual tent itself, was the colour. The colour tone very similar to Kenny Veach's tent bag, okay? And I will do a side-by-side comparison towards the end of this video, so make sure to stick around. So with the origins there, some people will already be familiar with Scott Natal because he got involved with the Kenny Veach and M-Cave search and documented it on his channel. Other people will be familiar with Scott Natal more in recent time for his involvement in the search for Dylan Rounds, loose in Utah, and Montello, Nevada, Bald Eagle Mountain Range. So Scott Natal has been around for a bit now and, of course, been very hands-on, which is good. And with his video recordings over time, he has caught and captured stuff on camera which other people have picked up on. And once again, we revisit it today. So be sure to share your thoughts down below as to what you think about it all, collectively speaking. One only other highlight I want to mention briefly, it was Susan Veach in a comment on that video from a month ago that said that Kenny supposedly had a blue tent or a blue camping bag or something. Maybe he did at a point in time, but we're looking at an older photo which could still follow on to around the time of when Kenny went missing. Because the other factor to take in mind is when you look back at Kenny Veach's attire and some of his equipment, more so the little pouch around his waist. For more context, be sure to check that previous video out where I compared and contrasted how Kenny Veach prepared himself and his attire throughout all his hikes over time. It'll be available on the top right corner of the screen, I think, if you click on it. But yeah, some items never changed, from 2011 up to 2014, right? So as for the possibility of a tent bag, that could well be possible. You also need to take in mind when it comes to Kenny Veach, originally, his initial final hike, the unrecorded one, he said to his girlfriend, an overnight or two stay out there, a 1 to 2 day hike out there, meaning he was going to camp within the desert. And if you're going to camp out there, you'll obviously need some kind of tent, possibly, so it's practical. You can sleep in, away from some of the wildlife. So if a tent, which just so happened to be found out there within the suitable area and range, tying that in with Kenny Veach and his supposed overnight stay out there, which would involve a tent, you could possibly tie one thing with another, right? It'll make more sense later once we've got through all the material. Don't worry, I'm going to present it to you right now. To kick things off, let's get into the original footage depicting Scott Natal catching on camera this campsite and tent bag.
Spot right there. Right here is a tent bag that was laying on the ground here. Somebody's tent. Looks like a two-man tent. Maybe Kenny was camped out here for a while. It's an old bag. We're gonna walk through this little narrow. It's pretty cool. Just saw it. Tent's still here. There's a tarp. Ooh, that's pretty. Looks hiding between the rocks. Look. It's been here for a long time. See if anything's in it. No, it's just the tent. Empty food cans. Look at this. What's in here? Somebody's walking stick. It's like a bamboo pole. Comes apart. It's heavy. That's a sword. Look. Somebody was hiding it here. Why would they leave that? That's a sword. Something happened to him. I'll bet this was Kenny's. We gotta find out if it was.
So after watching that, I just wanted you to be able to take it all in, hence the length of that clip and footage from the different angles and what was present. First of all, as we saw, the empty tent bag, which makes sense to be related to that tent nearby, or within the area, right? I don't know about the tent bag itself, if that disappeared at a later date. As I said, when Scott Natal went back to this place at a later date, the tent was missing. Did someone take it away, or did it blow away in the wind? I'm not quite sure. We never came to a conclusion. A mystery within the mystery, right? But looking at this tent bag, it was making me wonder, is there a link, some kind of similarity with Kenny Veach and one of his old hike photos with his equipment, more so on the back, on top or around his backpack, that orange colour, which looks like some kind of tent. You know, it's nighttime there, an overnight hike and stay camping out there. As you know, just to make very clear, this photo isn't directly related to this area of the hike. I'm not quite sure where Kenny Veach hiked in 2013, but you know, tying it with the pattern of, if you're going to go out there for an overnight hike and stay, you're probably going to take a tent with you. And in terms of the colour of this tent bag, and it does seem to follow down back there, you see a little glimpse of the orange, and most of it up at the top. So it's a fair size. Could you come to a conclusion and say that this tent bag is Kenny's and it's the same? Now, this is the thing, first and foremost, people are going to say the colour of it is completely different. But I think what you got to take in mind, it has been bleached over time. Take in mind that, as Scott Natal stated, that these items are quite old. They've been out there for quite some time. So through weathering, rain and sunshine and heat, you know, it can cause discoloration, right? Once you had something white, it might have become very dirty looking over time, or a bit yellowish. And certain colours which might have been a bit darker have lightened over time. So maybe in the past, more orange now appears more on the beige, yellowy side. That can happen when left and exposed to nature, right? Now, Scott Natal described it himself, saying that, well, I don't know if you saw it in the clip, but Scott Natal said it's a two-man tent. Now, at the end of the day, a solo hiker or a solo person can still use a two-man tent because it might be all they have, or maybe they've used the tent in the past with other people, like Kenny Veach did with Hunter Veach. Not so much the tent, but, you know, going out there in pairs, or if Kenny Veach went on the odd hike with Sharon Pilgrim in the past, right? So a tent like this could still be usable, right? Okay, the size varies, of course. You know, a 2, 3, 4-man tent, the bigger it is in size, and maybe weight as well. But, you know, I'm just putting it out there, right, as a possibility. Be sure to let me know your thoughts. Maybe you could say it's kind of odd how the tent bag is further away from the actual tent campsite. Why is there a bit of distance between the two items? Why is the bag over there and then the tent is over here? Why did that happen? I mean, that bag appeared to be quite empty and light. It does appear a bit like a backpack with the straps on it on the sides, the black straps. But in general, I guess maybe with it being light and empty, it's been blowing about in the wind, right? The tent itself at the time probably didn't, because it looked like it was lodged on a rock, so it was holding it in place. But the bag itself, yeah, maybe the bag itself was at the tent campsite area where those rocks were, but it blew away in the wind. I mean, when you look at it up close, this white stuff on the side, the material from the bag, I don't know if you can see it, but it's torn. It's like scraps of it. It's like ripped slightly. It's been exposed. So unless it's been blown about, caught on some rocks, wear and tear over time, possibly. I've not really seen many other people analyse the whole tent bag situation. The condition it's in, it's seen better days. You can clearly see that the tent bag, there's been discoloration over time. And then the strap or the side of it, it's torn up and ripped. What caused it to become damaged? Catching on rocks and items if it was blowing about, or did someone slash it with a knife? That's what the question is. And as well, the distance apart from this to the campsite, a little bit odd, but if it's lightweight, it could have been blowing about in the wind. Is it still there to this day? I'm not sure, but this was documented in 2021 at least. Okay? And the reason why no one else has recorded or picked up on it in the past is because majority of previous Cave hikers before Scott Natal, one, there was only a small amount of people that actually went out there, and two, most people were focused on Jomay Canyon, going over Wild Horse Pass, and then instantly turning left, going west onto, like if you're going to approach Skull Canyon and Picture Canyon, down that route. But if you to go left just a bit near to the Agave pit, what you see on the maps, but then turn right and then head north under a mile or so on, that's where the rock formation is, and that's where this tent was found, and nearby the bag as well. So if all the other hikers have been focused on the Cave and Kenny Veach's personal hike route, they would have never have thought to come here and document it. Jay Silverheels, though, was actually really close by. He was higher up on the peaks, and he was actually recording the rock formation where the tent was, but from the angle and elevation, it was in a blind spot. At the time, Jay Silverheels had no clue what he captured before Scott Natal was of the tent area, but it was out of sight, which was unfortunate. It would have been interesting to see if someone like Jeff Clark, Sean Horlecker 2017 or Sean Horlecker 2015-16, if they were present at this area, would that tent and bag have been still there? I wonder. Or did it only come afterwards? Just to highlight and put into balance, there's been accusations over time by some out there. Artari didn't mention anyone's name, but you could tie one thing with another and assume, in a rough way speaking, that Scott Natal has been accused by people over time for supposedly planting stuff out there to make it a mystery. All I would say in response to that, at least from my experience, Scott Natal has never caused any problems in the case. He just gets on with it, keeps his head down. And as far as the Dylan Rounds case goes, the ongoing case which Scott Natal's been involved with, there's been no mysterious findings there. There's not been anything like, any accusations of stuff being planted or added in that case. So there's no real consistent pattern. With the Kenny Veach case, wild random stuff happens and findings as well. So it's just what Scott Natal came across at the time, and he documented it, presented it to us. So then that's why we're here right now looking at the photos. As said, going up to the little rock formation within, kind of narrow, but I guess it could be a little bit safer in a way. Instead of being out in the open, you're in an enclosed space. Scott Natal pointed out the tent itself, as you see it on the ground floor there, up against the side of the rock wall. Now the tent itself completely torn to shreds. Look at it, the condition of it, not good. What caused it to become this damaged? Was it caused by another human? Was it caused by the people hiking here? Was it an animal attack? Was it natural? Is it weathering, right? I mean, look at the bag itself. The strap, the side of it, this tent bag, it's torn up, it's teared, it's ripped. Same exact thing with this tent here, ripped. It makes more sense though, this one, because it's up against the rocks. Look, as you can see, as Scott Natal pulled it away, there's still remnants of it, which are kind of wrapped around this lower end rock. And because rocks can be a bit sharp and jagged, things can get stuck on it like fabric material. So maybe the campsite was set up here in this area, let's say by Kenny Veach, if he was doing an overnight stay out there, then whatever happened. Maybe with time the wind blew the tent. Because, we've been in this enclosed space, it could act like a wind tunnel if it's blown in the right direction. It could have caused the tent to blow over or maybe get pressed up against the side of the rock wall, which then caught onto the rocks itself. But in terms of the sheer amount of damage to it, I don't know. It seems like someone's got a knife and cut it all up. But why would someone do that? You know what I'm saying? So a little bit odd. Nearby, besides the remnants there, on the ground, you got some rocks scattered about. I don't know if that was done as some kind of makeshift campfire, possibly. But Scott Natal pointed out you got those tin cans, which do look old-ish. You know, they have rusted with time. I don't know the time frame of how long it takes for cans to look like that out there in the open. Maybe not as long as you would think. So someone out there took food with them. Someone like Kenny Veach, would that be something he would do? Maybe not, because we've seen Kenny Veach under-prepare himself and not take the key items with him or leave them back at his truck. But at the end of the day, depending how determined he was and what exactly he was doing out there, maybe he could have taken some additional food as a reminder to his previous recorded hike where he was completely battered and dehydrated, exhausted. Maybe that could have been a bit of a reality check for him, which made him feel, you know what, I think I'll take more stuff with me next time, the final hike, unknown to him. You know, that's just a suggestion, okay? But originally, I was under the impression that because of the tent bag being further away, maybe it was the tent that blew away from the tent bag, which then caught up against the rocks here. But because of the cans, as you see here, and the rocks, these stones, the way they've been formed and piled on top of one another, it implies more that the tent bag blew away from here and the tent remained here because it was the campsite. The campsite of Kenny, possibly. In terms of the location of it all, it does kind of check out. It is near to the M Cave hotspot, right? Makes you think. And then nearby, bit further to the right off the screen, under some of the rocks, there is that bamboo long cane, as you can see. Not exactly, it's not even buried, right? It's just been placed there. Was it purposely left behind, forgotten, or what? It's hard to tell, right? But upon inspection, it's separated and it was a concealed sword. Now, I've seen these in armory books where you got a concealed bamboo cane disguised sword. What would be the purpose of it in an area like here? Well, maybe the bamboo stick itself serves as like a hiking pole, because we know Kenny Veach did use hiking poles. Maybe this was an alternative, possibly, that he took out there. And that the sword itself could be used utility item to cut up rope, cut material, or whatnot. There was no blood found in the area. There was no bones found either, just as a heads up. But in terms of finding an abandoned tent and campsite out there in the middle of nowhere, it is a little odd. Okay, if it was a popular tourist area, maybe you'd think inconsiderate humans leaving their trash behind. But here, it seems like a level of urgency and abandonment that maybe someone upped and left quickly, leaving behind the cane and sword and as well the tent, because it's not in good condition, completely folded in on itself. I mean, the rock there seems to be a bit of a stain on it, but if it really was blood, it probably would have washed away over time, right? I do understand not everyone will probably agree that this applies to Kenny Veach, but what you could at least highlight and come to some kind of conclusion is that it's a mystery within itself, right? Because it is a bit odd, especially where it's located. Now, as said, the next slide, what we're moving on to, is the side-by-side comparison to take it all into mind and perspective. You've got a discolorated bag and tent, discoloration over time. Is there any similarities to what we see on the right in 2021, recorded by Scott Natal on his hike for M Cave and Kenny, compared to on the left, 2013 or so? I can just double check. So yeah, 2013, 7th of November. Take in mind that this is when it was posted at the time, but it doesn't mean to say it all happened on the same day as to when the photo was taken. That could have been taken days or weeks beforehand. But in terms of the date itself, just pointing it out as an observation, it's very strange and a little bit coincidental how it says 2013, 7th of November. Now, Kenny Veach went missing a year later, 2014, on the 10th of November. Different year, but almost the same date and the same month. A little bit weird that, and as well with supposedly being on a hike and having that bag with him. Yeah. So, linking back to that side-by-side comparison, as you can see, you got the little red arrow, which we're pointing to here on his backpack. Above it appears to be some kind of mat or something, which people have suggested, which you may sleep on. The bag itself is kind of long in length. Does it match to the same size proportions? Kind of hard to tell because the one on the right does look a bit shorter, but it looks more like a turtle shell, the shaping of it. But then again, it does kind of stick out a bit at the end or at the top of it. It is on its side from the looks of it. And then, of course, the tent below. I mean, the bag itself could have changed. Maybe had a different tent bag, but kept with the same tent. Just these little possibilities, right? Just wanted to do this comparison. As said, discoloration is a key factor as to why it may look different in colour. But besides that, what's evident on here, what's all in common on screen is it's all to do with hiking equipment, a form of camping, you know? Kenny Veach on the left with camping gear, and then on the right, abandoned campsite with the camp gear in bad shape and condition. So, to put out there, and you can share your thoughts down below, right? Whether you agree or not, if there's a small chance. Do you think an old hike photo of Kenny Veach with his equipment with him was some of the same equipment was found by Scott Natal many years later in 2021? Is there a link? Is there a fair comparison here to make? Let me know down below in the comment section. All in all, hopefully you enjoyed the video, found it somewhat interesting. Feel free to like and share the video to spread as much awareness as possible so other people can see this. Take in consideration, I have done the odd analysis in the past, but what I never did was made a comparison between a photo of Kenny Veach and his equipment, which arguably looked somewhat similar to the footage by Scott Natal. But it was the right time to do so now. Be sure to share your thoughts down below. We'll see what happens next. Who knows? Anything's possible, right? Maybe we take a look back at those supposed helicopter marks outside the M cave. We'll see. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye, good night for now.